Morning, I'm Doug Schoen. I'm here with my friends and colleagues, reunited, Pat Cadell, John LeBoutelier. We are the Political Insiders, 7:30 Sunday nights, Fox News Weekend Report. Let's talk immigration. John, how do you assess what's going on? Will there be a solution anytime soon to the border crisis?
I think it's the dominant political issue of the moment, taking everything out of the news and dominating it. I think both parties are struggling to figure out what the right political position for them is, because that's what they think of, politics, with the election coming in November. And as we have pointed out repeatedly, what this issue shows is our government is not working. Okay? The president doesn't have it together. The House and the Senate don't have it together. Nobody knows what they want to do or how to do it.
Pat Cadell?
Yeah, I agree. Look, they're not trying to solve it. I mean, I think this is the classic example of the breakdown of government and dysfunction and putting politics ahead of the country. There is no doubt you could put leaders in a room and come up with a common sense solution to deal with this, but they don't, because of the politics of it. Meanwhile, you watch this tragedy unfold. These children being forced up with these coyotes, families going broke, trying desperately to get their children to America. They're coming here. They're in refugee camps, and the numbers are flooding, and nobody wants to solve it. I guarantee you the three of us could get in a room in a half hour.
How would you solve it, John LeBoutelier?
I think you solve it, number one, by sealing up the southern border. We can't have... Because here's what's happening.
How do we seal the southern border?
Well, as I say, I think you need the U.S. Army down there. And you asked me yesterday off the air, would I order, if I were the president, would I issue a shoot-to-kill order?
Would you?
Not for the children, but the coyotes who run drugs and people across the border ought to be on notice. You cross the American border, we could shoot you. That I could see, and I think there'd be support for it. I don't think it'll happen. But, look, the bigger problem is the states and the federal government are causing this problem. Our empathy, our humanity is causing this problem. Texas gives cheaper tuition to children of illegal immigrants. Arizona now gives driver's licenses to illegals. California, illegals can serve on juries. What signal does that send to Mexico and these other countries? If you can get to America, you will be accepted.
How do you respond to what John just said?
Well, I'm not sure I agree with all of it, but I do believe you've got to do something about your border. If you can't control your border, you're not a nation. There is I remember reading a book called Millennium back in 1998 by a brilliant Frenchman, talking about how this migration problem is going to be intense for first industrial countries, first tier, including the United States. All of these people come. We see the children. The one thing is, until a couple points. One, if you want to stop these kids from being sent and coming, some of them need to go home quickly so that you find out.
None of them are being sent back.
Nobody's being sent.
The law won't allow them to be sent back.
Because the law, if you were a Mexican kid, you could be sent back immediately. We have a different law for non-Mexicans. Does that make sense right now? Maybe we should suspend
Well, we've done this in the past. We had a different law for kids or for people leaving Haiti as opposed to Cuba.
The question of whether or not
both parties did it.
But the other thing you've said, which I think is interesting, it goes to two issues. Mexico, quote, our ally, which once would about kill anybody coming from Central America trying to move into Mexico, once they got here, has clearly decided to be passive with this organized crime effort of these the coyotes and drug dealers. And my thing is, we have a lot of special forces. We have a lot of talent. Maybe we should get rid of some of these people, number one. The second thing is, we should put pressure on the Mexicans. But we have to do something to show that you can't game this system. And until you do that, and then we're not going to have immigration reform as long as we're going to have this flood.
Right. So if the law says that the children from El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, if they get to the United States, they have special status. That's what the law says. George W. Bush signed it. The Democrats passed it. Exactly. But to get here, they've got to go through thousands of miles of Mexican territory, which means that Mexico is the key to stopping the thing.
Let me ask a question, final question for this topic. If in October, as is possible, there are 90,000 illegal immigrant children here, what do we do, Pat Cadell?
Well, there's going to be nothing because it'll be October, it'll be an election season, and there'll be recriminations everywhere. But let me just say to you.
Will it help the Democrats or Republicans?
This will not help the party in power.
Helps the Republicans.
I lived through this in 1980 with the Mariel boat lift, when Fidel Castro decided to send every crook he could and whatever, and we were figuring out where to dump them. It cost us Florida, cost Bill Clinton his governorship in Arkansas. I kept saying politically, this is September, October, can't we send them to places where, I don't want to name the states, where I know we're going to
Republican
lose?
states.
I mean, are you out of your mind? You're taking, but the fact is, the inability to handle that, there were real political consequences, and they were negative.
John, the political consequences...
Illinois, can I just say Illinois? They're taking Illinois. That finishes the governor's race, I suspect.
So you're giving Rauner victory in Illinois.
Over Pat Quinn.
Over Pat Quinn.
I think if they actually are sending them there, there'll be a lot
John,
of...
will this
Yeah,
issue help the Republican Party?
This year.
Yes.
This year will
Long-term
help
now.
them. This year. 2016, different
We'll get
issue.
to 2016 in a while. For Political Insiders, I'm Doug Schoen, 7:30 Sunday. Join us. We'll have much more on immigration and very, very broad-based, politically hard-headed and hard-hearted conversation. I'm joking about hard-hearted conversation about what all this really means. Thanks for joining us.